Come on, man. This video is going to be about how do you price AI automation projects. I do a little bit of mentoring and tutoring on the side in regards to the technical skills of no-code automation and APIs and things like that. And a lot of people I work with, and also on my Twitter, people have been asking me in the DMs saying, how do you price projects? What's your experience like? So I thought I'd make a video about it and talk through the 4 ways that I have actually priced projects. And then also one way that I have seen becoming more popular, and I thought I would just explain it. But I have not tried the 5th one myself. I'm just bringing it up so you have the full idea of what you have available, and you can obviously try these out and decide which one works for you. But I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of each one from my personal experience, and you can take with it what you want, and we just can go from there. But obviously you might think, well, who am I to actually speak about this type of thing? So firstly, my name is Gavin Wiener, if you haven't come across my videos before. I'm a technology specialist from South Africa, so born and raised here, but I've been traveling around for the last couple of years. And my background is actually in computer science. So I studied computer science, graduated in 2016. I worked as a developer for a couple of years for a very well-known South African online fashion company. And I was building internal marketing tools and some automations and started working with Python and Django and APIs and mobile apps and all those type of things. So I worked as a full-blown software engineer, and it was really cool, really helpful skills that I carried over. But in the last couple of years, I transitioned more towards freelancing, focusing on no-code automations and setting up marketing automation tools and things like that. And I've become top rated as a freelancer on platform doing these things, top rated on Upwork, a freelancer platform doing these exact things that I'm talking about now. I've made thousands and thousands of dollars a month doing these things for the last couple of years. And I've also helped 60 plus businesses at this point. That's just a rough estimate. It's probably way higher if I include lots of small projects, but I've helped lots of different businesses of lots of different sizes in lots of different industries with these types of things. And that's given me the experience of pricing these projects in all different ways. And some of them have made me want to just stop doing it. And some of them I've been like, okay, this is really cool. And this is really aligning well with what I do. So I'm going to talk about the 5 ways to price projects today from my experience. And you can see here, the ones that I've had personal experience with are hourly, fixed prices, and then almost like an extension of fixed price, you have productized services. So I like to think of it as like a fixed price plus. It's like the better version of fixed price. Then you've got retainers / monthly fees, which is obviously great. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And then the bonus, which I've seen popping up quite a bit, but I don't have personal experience with. So that's just the caveat, is I don't have personal experience with it, but I'll just share what I know about it, is rev share. So let's start off with hourly. Hourly is the one I've probably had the most experience with, is because, let's be real, that's probably what comes very naturally to people. When people think about freelancers or contractors, you just think, I'll price hourly. And that works for a lot of people. I mean, as far as I know, plumbers work by the hour, lawyers work by the hour, accountants, a lot of them work by the hour. You kind of naturally lean towards working by the hour. And it's easy. I understand why people do it, and why I've done it many, many times is because it's easy to just say, this is my hourly rate, and then you just track your time, easy peasy. But I've very quickly learned that there are lots of drawbacks in regards to hourly. And well, the first one, the biggest one, is that you are literally trading your time for money. You're putting a number on your time, and you're saying that is what it's worth, and you're going to have to trade that. But very quickly, you can see here by the 3rd point is your earnings are also capped by your time. So if you have 8 hours in your day, you can only make max X per day. So if your hourly rate is $50 a day type of thing, or $50 an hour, I mean, and you work 8 hours a day, you can make $400 a day, and you can multiply that out and get a monthly figure. But again, that is based on the principle that you are working every single hour, you're tracking every single hour. And I can tell you that if you actually sat and tracked your productive time each day, you are doing a lot less than you realize each day productively. You're probably doing like 4 to 6 hours productively each day, if even in my opinion. So to actually hit that upper limit of a theoretical 8-hour day, you're probably working like 10-hour days, or even longer, to be honest. So you can see, you can technically make a fair amount of money if you say, okay, my hourly rate's 50 or 100 and I max it out. I'm making a good income, but you're literally working every single hour of the day, and that doesn't sound very fun to me. That's not what I enjoyed. That's not what I wanted to do. And that's just not a long-term solution in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's not where I want to be, is literally trading my time for money. So that means if you want to take a whole day off, you're literally not making money, and that's really not fun. The second thing is your incentives are misaligned. This is something I've started to learn more recently as I've increased my hourly rate. So my hourly rate on platforms, it kind of sits between 50 and 100 at the moment. Some if it's a new client, I'm often going to that higher figure. If it's an older client and I've been working with them for a while, it kind of sits down that lower figure, just because I haven't raised it with them and they give me lots of consistent work. So it's nice to treat good customers well. But I've realized it misaligns your incentives, because if you think about it, you can finish something, you can finish something really quickly. Let's say it takes you 30 minutes to finish something. You've made $25 from that, but you've worked so long and you've built up so much experience, and that's why you can finish it so quickly. So you're kind of almost punished a little bit for being good at what you do. Obviously, you can increase your hourly rate, but I could be wrong about this. I could be wrong. I believe there's a point that a person eventually says, this is ridiculous. I can't pay you that per hour. Like, let's say you become so good at what you do and you start charging $400 an hour or something, or $500 an hour. And I personally haven't had the experience. Maybe there are people out there, but I'd be surprised if clients don't start to say at that point of like, damn, that's pretty ridiculous. Like, are you that much better than, say, someone else? And also the misaligned incentive is the fact now when you're working on a project, the client is thinking, they're thinking, oh damn, every single hour that gets worked on this project, it's costing me more money. It's costing me more money. So they start to like freak out a bit because they don't know how much this thing is going to cost. And that's what business owners are in this for, is they're trying to make a decision on a positive return on investment. They pay you X. Do they get more out of paying you X? Essentially, they wouldn't pay you if they weren't getting a positive return. And the same as when they hire employees, they're paying an employee, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 a month or whatever it is, and they are assuming, or they've calculated, that they make more from that employee. So they're making 5x or 10x whatever they're paying the employee. They wouldn't do anything in a business if they weren't making a positive return from it. So when you price hourly, it puts business owners in this very difficult position, and you in this difficult position of, you obviously want to make more money. Who doesn't want to make more money? But obviously you don't want to drag out a project unnecessarily when you could finish it quicker, because that's just not ethical. It's not ethical to put more time into it when you could finish it quicker. But then for the business owner, they're also thinking, well, I need to make a business decision around this. I need to basically know if this is going to be a positive ROI, but I have no idea how much this is eventually going to cost me. So it puts everyone in this very weird position. It's not fun. I personally don't love hourly rates. Yes, it's easy to sell. It's just, this is my hourly rates. And you also know that the cash is coming in. It is pretty nice to know that, oh, I just did 4 hours today or 6 hours. That client is now going to pay me X, but it's just not a fun place to be, in my opinion. There are people who make it work. I know some people on Upwork, for example, who do like very specialized stuff in SQL and things like that, and database work, and they charge by the hour as far as I know, and they're killing it. But I don't know. For me, it puts a weird dynamic on the relationship. So I don't love it personally. And like I said, I think there is a max cap on what you can charge hourly before people saying like, I don't know about this, for example. And then this kind of moves us to the next step of, well, if we don't want to charge by the hour and we want to make sure that everyone's happy and making a decision kind of out of the gate, then you naturally lean on fixed prices. But when it comes to these AI projects, that's where it gets a bit tricky, because it's hard to scope projects. So you can see here, I mentioned pricing the project and estimating. For me, this is a skill in itself, but even I still find it very hard to price projects where someone comes to you with an idea. They say, I want to build this, or I want to build that, or I want to automate this. And you've never done something like that, or you've done something kind of like that. You're guesstimating. I mean, you can make guesses based on previous projects, but you're still making a rough guess on how long you think it's going to take you. And often you're just taking the number of hours you think it's going to take, you add some buffer, like you add a bit of a margin, and then you multiply an hourly rate. And that's kind of how you get to the fixed price. So you almost like end up still pricing hourly, but you're taking a guess on if it's going to work out well for you. And also, well, on the client side, this is actually better for the client. They do get to know right away up front how much it's going to cost them, and they're just making a logical decision around, I think this is worth it, yes or no type of thing. So fixed price is nice in that regards, that it aligns the incentives better, especially on the buyer side, because they're getting to make a decision of, I think this is going to be a positive ROI. But then you are taking more risk from your side as the AI automation expert or contractor who's building the system out. So you are taking a bit of risk, but that's also why you add a bit of a margin on. You add on a buffer. You say, I think this is going to take me this amount of time. Let me add on a buffer. So that's like the very basic way to go about fixed price in the projects. And there's a term that's really helpful that I got introduced to someone by name James Schranko. He wrote a book. I can't remember. I think it's called Work Less, Earn More, if I remember. But he's got a term called effective hourly rate. I don't think he came up with it, but he summarized it very nicely for me. And what your effective hourly rate is, basically it's saying you still have an hourly rate, whether you fix price a project or you outsource or whatever, you still have an effective hourly rate. And that's your total income that you make from a project. So let's say you fix price a project to $3,000 or whatever, and you end up working on it for 10 hours. So you still track your time just for yourself, and you essentially have an effective hourly rate of $300. Let's say $3,000 and you outsource most of the work to someone. You hand it off to a team member and they do most of the heavy lifting. That costs you maybe $500. So you have $2,500 profit. And let's say you only work now 5 hours. Your effective hourly rate is still higher. You have an effective hourly rate of $500. So I think that's a really cool concept to think about. And the premise of this, and I've seen other people speak about this principle as well, is try and maximize your effective hourly rate. So that could be by fixed pricing things, that could be by outsourcing, but it's essentially limiting your time that you're putting into this. So that's something to consider when you fix price projects, especially, is what is my effective hourly rate? Like, because you might fix price and you end up working like 20 hours, and now you've actually just made less than you would in hourly terms than you would if you just did an hourly rate. So that's just something to think about. Then a concept I thought was pretty cool about pricing that I recently read in a book called Pricing Design by Dan Moore. It's a pretty short book, definitely recommended, some cool ideas. And what I quite liked is that he introduced this idea of you price based on, because prices can for the most part be made up. Like, let's be real, a lot of prices you're just thumb sucking, you're guesstimating, whatever. But what he said, which was quite interesting, is you basically price thinking about in terms of like goods and things you want. So let's say you think, oh, I want that new MacBook Air and it costs $1,000, and you get a project come in and you basically just price it at that. You're pricing like, would I be happy to get a MacBook for this project? For the amount of work that I think this project is going to be, would I be happy with effectively having a MacBook by the end of it? And I thought that was pretty cool. I've actually done that on a couple of projects recently, and what I found is it feels good for you because you know, hey, I'm pretty happy for what the amount of work this is going to be, and essentially what I'm getting out of it by the end of it. It's a flight or a MacBook or whatever. And also your client, again, it's the incentives are aligned. They get to make a decision up front of, is this going to be a positive ROI, yes or no, for example. So that's just another approach to pricing. Fixed prices are better, in my opinion, because of these things than hourly rates, but they are trickier. They have their own pros and cons, as I said right at the start. Now, this is where we start to get to the direction I'm pushing much more strongly, is that you want to essentially productize your service. And I just call it fixed price plus, because you're still just given a fixed price, but by productizing it, you're essentially wrapping it up into this bow of, you can deliver it because you've done it before, basically the same thing before. So you also know how long it's going to take you. So you're effectively going to be maximizing your effective hourly rate, because if you know what your hourly rate is and it's really low, for example, well, you're not going to price it at that price. You're going to increase the price to make it better. So you know roughly how long it's going to take. You can deliver. Again, your client knows exactly what they're getting, because when it comes to these fixed price projects, there can be uncertainty still. There is uncertainty around these AI automation scopes in these projects. So when you get to the point of being able to productize, which is where I'm getting much closer to for myself, then you can do the same delivery roughly for the same person, and it's roughly on the same timeline. And the client also knows then exactly what they're getting. They know it's possible, and they know the timeline as well, so they can also make plans in their own business. It makes it much better for calculating margins, because if you say you know how long it's going to take the team members you have, or you know what price it is and what's involved, you can also, what I realized, it makes it easier to hire people. It makes it much, much easier to hire someone when you say, I'm hiring someone to do these exact things every time, as opposed to, I just need someone who's good as well at AI automation and setting up systems. That's what I found very tricky, and I've tried to do it myself a few times, of hire people who are smart and skilled, but then I'm still in that same situation of, I have no idea how long this is going to take. Do I price it by the hour? Then you're basically just taking a margin on your hourly versus the person you've hired hourly. And then you're also, if you fix price, you're like, damn, do I charge them hourly? And then it runs it up. And then you also get into an awkward situation of, do I just pay them a fixed price? But then they don't really know what to fix price it. So it's just like, it's always a mess. But if it's a productized service, you can say like, hey, look, per project, I pay you 500 or 1,000. Are you happy with that? This is exactly what you're going to be doing every time. And they're like, sounds good. And you've got your margin, and you're charging maybe 5K to the client or something. So everyone's happy. Everyone's happy this way, which is why I like the productized approach. And I found this works well, essentially, when you niche, as cliche as it sounds. For me, for example, I don't really niche down to like plumbers or specific types of coaches. I've essentially niched to agencies, coaches, and consultants who book sales calls, because those groups of people essentially have the same sales flow. That's the big thing, is they have the same sales flow. They're trying to get people onto sales calls. And because of that, they also all need the same types of metrics and they often have the same type of onboarding process. So for me, that's just the direction I've been focusing on. But this would also work with local service businesses. For example, Charlie Morgan's another massive YouTuber who he talks a lot about the service delivery he used to do in his agency, and was mostly gyms, and it would apply to local service businesses as well, like doing the Google campaign reviews and things like that. So local service businesses, from what I've seen, I don't have tons of hands-on experience with them, but from what I've seen, those also naturally productize quite well. You basically do the same thing for all of them with a little bit of tweaking here and there, but it takes the same amount of time and everyone knows what they get. So that's why productized services is my focus, and I'm personally enjoying that. Just to say again though, like all of these work, hourly works, like I said, that example of the person doing really well with the SQL database management stuff, they seem to be killing it. As far as I know, it looks like they're killing it substantially more than me, but I just don't enjoy it. That's just not the business that I want to build. Same thing as fixed scope. People are doing well. I know other people also who kind of like almost thumbsuck prices, but they thumbsuck big enough prices that it makes it worthwhile to them. But for me, it's just not an enjoyable way to build a scalable business. This is kind of also what software developer agencies do, and I don't think it's the best way to do it, to be honest. Well, it's not the best way for me. That's all I can say, is I don't want to do it. Productized service seems to be where it's at. It just seems to take time to find out what that productized service is, which I guess is why you end up working with someone who is like a coach or mentor who's done exactly what you're trying to do, for example. Now, the fourth approach is the retainer and the monthly fee. So I have done this. I've actually been working with a client for almost like a year on the mark now, and with this model, but I've also had been working with them before that on like hourly projects and per price projects. So I've almost like done everything with that one client, and now I'm doing a monthly retainer for them. Obviously, the biggest benefit is that you get recurring income. That's very nice to have, especially so you don't have to continuously be hunting for projects. You got that monthly income, you got a nice base. And also the thing is, clients, well, this is a pro and a con, is the client is just simply making a decision. I'm paying this person X per month as a retainer or a monthly fee. Is this worth it to me? Do I feel like I'm getting more out of it? And the thing is that getting enough out of it can simply be the peace of mind knowing that they have someone they can rely on, someone they enjoy working with, someone they know they can rely on, someone who brings ideas. All of those things can be valuable. And the client is just making that decision essentially every month. They're saying, do I want to continue? Do I find this valuable enough, for example? The one thing I have found a little bit tricky is responsibilities. I clearly setting out kind of responsibilities and scope. And I probably made a mistake with this one client in that regards, in that it's very loose. It's basically just, we'll get on a call once a weekish, like once every 2 weeks. Or what are you working on? Cool, maybe I can help with that. Hey, do you need help with anything? So it's kind of like you're looking for things to solve, which is good. You obviously want to keep giving value, but it also makes it tricky from my side, because I've thought if I had to get like 5, 6 or 7 clients like this, I don't know how I'd manage that. Like trying to find problems to solve to make sure you're giving enough value. It's a bit of a weird mental space to be in, and also it takes mental focus. You got to try like find things. So what I've had to start to do is, in some of these situations, is be better with my time blocking. So I say to them, I just work on these days, and then on those days we take something off the stack that we want to do, and then I work through it, type of thing. So that I find that really helpful, as opposed to every day I'm just like chipping away at stuff and your mind's kind of bouncing. It's just these days I work for you during the week. Other days, just keep your stuff coming in, but we just add it to the stack for those days. And then, like I said, the responsibility is the scope and expectations. I do a better job with that if I brought on more clients on a retainer monthly basis. I would say, hey, listen, I'm going to work on these days for your stuff. We only work on one thing at a time. I'm not really going to go hunting for problems. You're more paying me for knowing that I'm there. I'm happy to bring ideas if you want me to scope out projects, but you bring projects to me, and then I will take them off the stack one at a time, and I'll work through them, preferably one at a time. And that kind of put them on the stack and work on them one at a time. That's actually a concept or model I got recently introduced to by a guy named, not Bretty of Design Joy. His name is Brett. And he released this little course called Productize Yourself. So he started a business called Design Joy. It's a one-person design agency, and he's doing like something absurd, like $1 million plus a year. And it's just him. And clients just pay him a flat rate per month. And same thing, they just add on a job onto the stack, and he just takes them off one by one by one. As far as I know, he doesn't do this like time blocking thing. He just works every day, all day, which does not sound fun. But there's some good elements to take from the concept, which is why I wanted to talk about it. So that's really cool. If you want to check it out, I recommend it. I think it was a solid course. I took some golden nuggets away from it, and it's decently priced. So I would say check it out, Productize Yourself. Just search for Brett of Design Joy on Twitter, and he'll pop up. Then the last one is revenue share. So this one I don't have experience with. This is one I've just seen popping up and people talking about quite a lot lately. And people wrap it around this term, which I think is quite funny, of growth partner or growth consultant. And they're essentially like it's almost like being a marketing agency, but you essentially have more investment in the client. You're maybe working with just 2-3 clients at a time, and you actually have a percentage of the growth that you bring. And this would work, in my opinion, as well as AI automation. So if someone they come to you and say, hey, I need someone who's going to really lead the way, like be the chief of AI in our company and be essentially our CTO. So another term I've seen people throw around is a fractional CTO. Essentially, you come in and you say, well, you don't have someone who's going to really spearhead the technical side of this business and automating workflows and making things better and given the technical foundations to grow and all that. Let me come in. I'll be that person. I'm staying on top of the trends and seeing what's happening with the AI world. So it's being like a fractional CTO or like a fractional chief of operations or a fractional AI, head of AI type of thing. So that's kind of the terms you might see people throwing around. And what it essentially is they say, well, we're at this level of growth. We're at X per month. Maybe you take a base fee type of thing, like a low monthly retainer just to make sure everyone's invested. And you say, I'm going to be building out these systems and my goal is to help you grow and scale. And basically you just take a percentage of what growth happens above that initial baseline. So if they were at 20K a month when you started with them and after working together for 6 months, you can fairly say, well, we haven't changed that much in regards to lead flow and things. And now the business is at like 40K a month. Well, you've helped increase the business by 20K and maybe you get like 25% of that or 50% of that. So that could be a pretty damn good business. And I've seen people do very, very well with that. I just don't know how to do it myself. I haven't done it myself yet. Maybe one day I'll start partnering with people a little bit like that, but I haven't done that yet. So that's the 5 ways to price. So like I said, I have personal experience with 4 of them. And the 5th one was that bonus of the revenue share, the growth partner, the growth consultant, the fractional CTO, whatever you want to call it. And from my experience, like I said, hourly, it's a bit of a dud. I don't like it. I don't think it's a way forward. It's a good way to get cash quickly and upfront because you work and you make money, but I personally think it's not a way to structure your business long term. It's just not fun. I'm personally trying to not do any more of that if I don't have to. Again, fixed price. Fixed price is nicer. It aligns incentives much better for your client. They get to make a more informed decision. You know what you're getting up front and you're kind of making a judgment call on, do I think this is going to be worth it? Even with the buffer of I end up working more than I think. So it aligns incentives much better. But if you're going to go the fixed price route, then I think you should be aiming to get to the productized service route. And that's, like I said, you're doing roughly the same build with the same person each time, and you know how long it's going to take. It's much easier to outsource. It's much easier to calculate your margins on it. It's much easier to turn it into a business. So that's where I'm starting to get myself to now. And then we got the retainer monthly fee. That's really cool in regards to the recurring income. That's really nice. You just have to be careful in regards to how you manage the expectations, in my personal experience and my personal belief, because that can get a bit messy, and then it takes up a lot of mental space and a lot of mental focus, and you're like, damn, I just want to be sure I'm keeping enough value. I'm giving enough value to this client. So those are the 5 ways. Again, like I said, revenue share, I don't really know too much about it, but it's just something interesting to keep in mind. But anyway, that's the 5 of them. Hope you found that interesting. This ended up being much longer than I thought. I wanted to do just like a 10-minute video, but these kind of ones where I just start riffing and talking end up taking up longer. So let me know what type of topics you find interesting. Obviously, if you enjoyed this, just give me a follow. Also, I've got a newsletter at the bottom you can find on my website where I also post just things about funnels and stuff I'm working on and case studies and whatnot. So you can check that out as well. But otherwise, yeah, I'm going to try to do more of these, and I'll leave it for next time.